G'day guys and girls, welcome to episode 10 of the Shack series. On this episode we'll have Andrew Lauterstein coming on. Andrew is an Olympic bronze medalist and multiple time world champion. So we'll be getting in depth, bit of a chat about his whole swimming career, that iconic moment where he was alongside Michael Phelps in 2008 where he did the impossible. And we'll talk a bit more about his role and what he's doing in Engine Swim, which is a popular brand here at the Swimwear Shack. So stay tuned. G'day, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, mate.
Yeah, good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Loud and clear. What's happening?
Yeah, perfect. No, not too much. Yeah, how about yourself?
Friday, getting a dog today. So I'm picking her up at 2 o'clock. So pretty excited, to be honest.
Yeah, not your standard Friday.
Nah, mate, I've been waiting a long time for this, actually. We found out about it like 14 weeks ago. And then it was 6 weeks until they had the mum had the baby, and then you have to wait 8 weeks until you can pick the puppy up. So it's taken a bit of time. It's been the longest 14 weeks ever in lockdown the whole time. Just so spending heaps of time at home, I would have just loved to have had the dog there with me, but at least it's today.
When did you start swimming and where did you grow up, and kind of take us through a bit of a background of your swimming career?
Yeah, awesome. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. You guys are doing a great job up there in Brisbane. Very jealous of everyone back at swimming, back training, back surf lifesaving. Down here in Melbourne, everyone's locked up a little bit. So sitting on Instagram and just scrolling through, it's like, oh my God, look what all these people get to do. It looks so amazing. But I guess for us, at least we've got a bit of a roadmap out. So it's a little bit more optimistic now, and the weather's changed. So we're out of the depths of winter, a little bit more positive. But I guess my swimming journey started, in grade 4, just through the school house swimming. I made the state team growing up in Melbourne, represented Victoria. So I went to primary school nationals, grades 4 and 5. And then in grade 6, I actually won the primary school nationals in the 50 butterfly. And that was when I kind of said, oh, hey, Mum, how about I start training properly for some swimming? And that's when I joined a swimming club. So, and then it just kind of naturally grew from there. As my times continued to improve, I kind of started adding a few more sessions. But growing up, I played lots of different sports. So played football, played baseball, did surf lifesaving, and then was really actively involved with anything at my primary school or at my high school. So for me, I was throwing my hat in the ring, doing whatever I could. But then just ultimately the improvement that I saw in swimming was why I kind of chose that sport.
Yeah. What was your most favorite thing about swimming? Like, was it the social aspect? Was it, meeting friends, going on teams? Was it competitive, your competitive side that made you fall in love with the sport?
I think maybe a combination of all of what you just mentioned. So obviously having good mates to train with makes it a lot easier to turn up. So we had a really nice culture. And then obviously, I think for me, putting in the hard work at training and then being rewarded with a fast time come competition was another reason why I love the sport. And then I just love to compete and stand up there without any teammates, and it all be on myself. And I used to love racing the clock, not necessarily like my competitors. I used to love just the improvement, and that's kind of something that I've still carried on today. I just always wanting to get better at whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. Did you have a career highlight? You had a long list of achievements. One of those being Olympic bronze medal, behind Kavich and Phelps during that very iconic race at the Beijing Olympics. Would you say that would be your career highlight, or do you have something that tops it?
To be involved in that race is pretty epic. Every now and then, I think it's around this time, every year they kind of bring back the highlights from the Beijing Olympics, and that race always gets a run. And whenever I watch the race back, it's always such a shock to see the surname Lauterstein pop up in the water in something so iconic. It feels almost like a lifetime ago now. So obviously to be involved with that was probably my career highlight. But I think just traveling and racing with the team is something that I look back really fondly on.
Yeah. And you spent a lot of years on the Australian swim team. Did you have a favourite Australian swim team member?
I used to spend a lot of time with Kendrick Monk. So we raced against each other from the age of 12. He made his first national team in 2007, whereas I made mine a couple of years early. 2006. We both went to the Commonwealth Games together. So yeah, we spent a lot of time together. We were roommates, and yeah, really enjoyed life on the swim team together. And still, now I've been retired for 8 odd years, and we still chat on the phone most nights. So we're still really good mates outside of the pool.
Yeah, and I see that you're really involved with swimming still, both together. You do a lot of surf swims together, and you know you're still doing activities together. It's great to see that, you know, something from swimming. Who a lot of people don't really see that kind of side of swimming and competitive athletes. That, you know, you do make lifelong friends from sport.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that I think is kind of lacking a little bit in swimming. That kind of drop off. There's not only a drop off at kind of like 15 when people start to get a little bit more serious about school or the direction they're going in swimming, but then again another drop off at like 18, 19, 20. And it feels like as soon as people stop doing the competitive swimming, there isn't really an outlet for them to go and just swim, you know, just 3 times a week and enjoy it with their friends. So for me, that open water swimming piece is something that I just really like. It's kind of, it doesn't have the straight discipline of a running clock or the T. So it's a little bit more freedom. I think as swimmers, you just love the feel of water on your body, and then what it feels like to get a good catch at the top of the stroke. And for me, I just want to do that. And if Kenrick and I, we did a race, we did a 5K open water swim together and swam side by side like the whole time. Every now and then I'll just absolutely start pissing myself. I just couldn't believe that we were still kind of doing this almost 20 years later after we first raced each other.
Yeah. Is it different swimming the 5K, knowing that during your swimming career, you're a majority of the time a sprinter?
Yeah, it's funny. In the Beijing Olympics, my race plan was just don't try too hard. You know, just let the rhythm of the stroke take over. My speed and power would look after it. And then also the fact that I'd practiced my race plan so many times, it was kind of automatic. I just had to not try. I guess that was kind of my race plan then. And now doing a 5K, because I'm so unfit in the water, that it has to be the same thing. It's like, just don't try. Because if I was to try, I'd blow up and I wouldn't make the
5K. So speaking of your favorite teammate that you had on the Australian swim team, you know, we've all got them. Who was the biggest pest? Like, who was someone that just purposely would always try and get under your skin? Was there anyone?
It'd have to be Ash Callis. He'd probably beat me up for saying it, but he was definitely one of the biggest hecklers on the team. And I trained with him at Southport for a couple of years too. We became really good mates. But honestly, if you ever did anything wrong, Ash was the first person to whack you back in the line.
It seems, you know, things haven't changed.
He'd be still the same on pool deck now, bullying all the other coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a hardest session that you did as a swimmer? So something that, you know, swimming is such a tough sport, but I mean, you know, there are those days where you just do these sessions and you look back now and it's just scarred you. Do you have anything that's kind of stuck out that you just think, oh my God, that session, no way?
I'm still pretty scarred from just doing 10 400s every Monday morning for probably 10 years in a row. So from probably 13 to 20 odd, I was doing that every Monday morning. But probably the sessions that scar me the most are the high lactate sessions. Let me have a think. So maybe something like coming a little bit closer to the meet, maybe we'd do like 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, we'll do something along the lines of 8 100s max, maybe on 5 or 6 minutes with whatever cool down you wanted to do in between. So kind of just doing that high like effort over a little bit extended period of that 100 just was so painful, that last 15 to 25 meters. And I always felt that if I was able to produce, you know, consistent times over those 8 100s, that I would never feel the pain like what I was feeling for probably the last 3 of the last 15, 25 meters that I would in a race. So if I could just put my head down, suck it up and get on with those 8 1s, I always felt like I was in a good position to race well.
Yeah, absolutely. And those even stick out to me today. You know, you get through one and you think, oh yeah, this is not too bad. And then you go 2 and you're like, hang on, and then 3 dead.
Exactly, especially if you're not a last lap Larry, or and you don't just save it all up for the last couple. If you really do go max effort from the start, there's a lot to improve on those sessions. It's really like what a lot of coaches say is money in the bank if you do put yourself under a bit of that stress really early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a bit more about food now, everyone's favorite topic. So did you have a favorite meal after a hard session, and what was like your go-to snack before training?
So, mate, I haven't swum for a long time, so you're testing my memory here. But I do remember that pre-competitions, I always liked my mum's chicken curry. That was a bit of a classic. And one of the funny things that I used to like to eat between the heats and the finals was like a couple of pieces of toast. And in a can, you have like canned sardines in tomato sauce.
Yeah, gross.
Pretty foul, but that was kind of the thing that I'd like to eat between a heat and final. Heaps of butter on the toast and just a couple of sardines with tomato. Pretty foul. But like, I remember just, mate, a lot changes once you stop swimming as much. When I was swimming, it was all just about fueling myself, especially when I was your age. I could get away with anything, wouldn't put on any weight, and it would just almost just give me energy. So I used to love just a parma and chips, chicken parma and chips.
Yeah, that diet doesn't really last long, does it?
Nah, couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Just ask Christian Springer and Jeff Hugel.
Yeah, exactly, until the old skinnies start bumping up. So looking back now, when you retired, do you think it was the right time for you to retire?
Yeah, I do. I was very comfortable with my decision. So I'd kind of swum terribly. I got sick in Delhi in 2010. I then missed the national team in 2011. I then moved back to Melbourne. So my swimming journey, I kind of went from Melbourne until I finished school. And then I moved to the Gold Coast for 3 years. That's where I did, after the Olympics in 2008, I then moved to Sydney, where I joined like a high performance program with Grant Stylewinder as the coach, with Eamon Sullivan, Jeff Hugel, Libby Trickett, Matt Abood, and a host of other really high performance guys. And then I was in Sydney for 3 years before I moved back to Melbourne for kind of the last 18 months of my career. That last kind of 2.5 year period was pretty challenging. I didn't swim very well, but I felt like I was making what I used to call choices earlier on in my life. I felt like I was making sacrifices to get the most out of myself. And I think there's a big difference between choosing something and feeling like you're sacrificing something. After making 18 months of kind of sacrifices, living in Melbourne and doing everything I possibly could to swim well at the Olympic trials in 2012, I didn't make the Olympic team, and then I essentially just didn't go back to training. I never really officially retired, but for me, I always loved the training. And if I ever felt like a time that I really didn't want to go back to training, that was when I would kind of stop. So kind of had a disappointing Olympic trials and just stopped. So felt like I'd done everything I could for that event, wasn't swimming fast enough, and that was just it.
Yeah. And was retirement an easy transition for you? I understand for a lot of swimmers, you've done this sport ever since you're 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever age it is, but you do it for so long, and it's so consistent and so time demanding, and so, it just takes up all of your life, and it's just pretty much just completely cut when you retire. And a lot of swimmers find it really difficult to either move on or, have an easy transition. So what was retirement like for you?
Yeah, you're right. It definitely does provide a lot of structure and also discipline to people, because you're accountable to your coach and to your teammates. So as soon as all of that's stripped away, it does make that next period kind of challenging. Luckily enough for me, I was already working at Engine. I'd been working for probably 6 to 8 months in kind of a part-time capacity. So that transition I'd already kind of prepared myself for. As soon as I did retire, I kind of just dived straight into full-time work to try and not have that lull. So lucky for me that I was almost preparing for life after sport while I was still in sport. In saying that, if I had have retired maybe a year or two earlier, I would have been pretty stranded. I would have been treading water without much of direction. So in hindsight, I got a little bit lucky that I did swim for those extra couple of years, because it maybe saved me from having that challenge, like experiencing that challenging transition.
Yeah. So going back to the team, and your many years on the Australian swim team, which means a lot of interviews. Was there a particular question that you didn't like getting asked? We had Matt Wilson on last time, and he said that he absolutely hates it when journalists and reporters ask him, how did you keep swimming after 2016? Like,
oh, really? Yeah. I guess don't tell Nicole Livingston. She'll probably be watching this, but she's a long-time commentator and was often on pool deck after our races. And I guess I'm not one of those guys who has lots of feelings. So whenever I asked about how does that feel, or how does it feel to make that team, generally it hasn't sunk in. I'm quite a realist, so it's just like, yeah, of course it feels good. But then you're supposed to elaborate a little bit more on that feeling, where I was just like, good. Like, carry on, let's go. Probably, how's it feel?
Yeah, let's get the ball rolling on this one, eh?
Exactly.
Now this question's a bit of a rumor. I remember hearing this when I was like 12. Crazy things that you would do in the gym, and doing squats, but on your ankles. So instead of having your feet like this when you squat, you would have your feet like this. I don't know if it's true, but can you confirm or deny this?
Mate, that's great. That is true. I was doing that every morning at Southport. And it was all about that, having that extra little bit of flick in my foot. So I felt like, say if that's my foot, so you're right, I was doing squats up and down like this. I felt that if my at extension, if I could just get that much more on every single kick, you multiply that by how many times you're kicking in a race, it could add up to a fair bit. And then I wanted to have like a lot of power in that end part of the whip of my kick. So that was something that I was kind of doing every morning. It started out more like assisted with my hands on a bar and just helping me go up and just getting used to the tension, because obviously it's quite a like weak part of the body, that kind of the ligaments and tendons in that piece. So I wouldn't encourage someone to try and just start trying to do squats on that. But yeah, definitely that's amazing that spread around. That was a while ago. You must have been like 6.
Yeah, I remember hearing that from when I was training at Birong. And Adam Cable had actually just started coaching, and I think he was going through like dryland exercises of swimmers, and then you came up in conversation and was saying he was doing squats with weights on his ankles, and I'm thinking, what the hell?
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's you can tell a good coach, Adam Cable, like by that, the fact that he has, even over his swimming journey, he was pulling things from lots of different athletes, and now he's applying that as his coach. No wonder he's being so successful down in Sydney and heading up that New South Wales swimming program. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's been absolutely killing it lately, and a big future for him. So this next question, so your performances at Australian trials or Australian nationals, did you ever expect to become Swimming Australia's best ever DJ?
Well, I'll tell you the story about how I started DJing. So when I moved to the Gold Coast at 18, I moved in with my coach, like living with my coach, Glenn Baker at the time. So I was seeing the same guy when I would go to training, when I would come home, have a sleep, see the same guy, go to training, see the same guy. So I always loved music, and I wanted to find a way to kind of tap into some of my passions. So I bought some decks, and I spent, that period of time from kind of 18 months or so when I was living with Glenn in the garage practicing DJing and just downloading music and having fun with that. So the stairway to that's kind of the flashing lights. That's like the Olympic gold medal at DJing at Asian Nationals, isn't it? So I've achieved it all. But I actually DJ'd at some of the after parties at the London Olympics, which was a lot of fun. So the whole second week, it's kind of back-to-back parties. And I wasn't obviously swimming at the London Olympic Games, but I went over to watch a lot of my friends compete, and I was invited to DJ. So I DJ'd for the 7 nights at a nightclub called China Doll in London, which was awesome.
Did you have a particular go-to song that would absolutely like get the club hyped, or the kids at age?
you're testing my memory now. That was in 2012. I actually can't remember, but I remember I played after. I remember that they didn't pay me in money, but they gave me a bottle of Grey Goose for every night that I DJ'd. So it was kind of a dusty week.
Jesus. Who did you look up to? So you grew up and raced in the era of, you know, the Michael Phelps Cabbage rivalry. You know, you had Ian Crocker there as well. Was Michael Phelps someone that you looked up to?
I wouldn't say I looked up to him. No offense to him. I respected him as an athlete, but for me, he was just competition. So I always wanted to try and keep him just on my level. I kind of looked up to people more so when I was growing up. The pool that I actually trained in Melbourne was called the Klim Swim Trojans. That was the name of our club. And that was so it was owned and kind of managed by Michael Klim and his family. So I had a lot to do with Michael from kind of the ages of 13, 14, 15. So he was definitely a role model. But then also for me, when I was coming through the age group ranks, I always liked to look up to people that were just about a year or two ahead of me in the state of Victoria. So guys like, you know, Patrick Murphy, Matt Target and stuff like that. And I always thought that if I was a 13-year-old and I was keeping up with the 15-year-old guys, I was doing pretty well for myself. So I tried to keep my net relatively small as far as who I looked up to. And then people that were my competitors, I tried not to put them on a pedestal, but just kept them as a competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was it like, you know, facing Phelps in that era, you know, and especially at a meet that, you know, he was trying to accomplish this impossible task of 8 gold medals at an Olympic Games. What was your mentality in, you know, going up against the greatest Olympic swimmer in history?
Yeah. It's as much as I was trying to keep him as a competitor, there was a couple of times when what he was doing at those Olympics really hit home for me. And one of those was for the semi-final of the 100 flight. So we're waiting in the marshalling room and they had us all waiting in a line. I was in lane number 3 and Michael Phelps was to stand in front of me in lane number 4. But we were waiting because there was a medal presentation on, right? And Michael Phelps was getting a gold medal at the time for his 200 medley, right? And at the Olympics, you have a special medal presentation tracksuit top. So he's out there and getting his gold medal, national anthem, steps down, gives the flowers to his mum, does the lap of honour, comes into the marshalling room, zips off his tracksuit top, goes, yep, cool. A lady gives him his next race tracksuit top, gets that, gets his cap, goggles, puts his headphones on, and then stands in front of me, right? Literally as quickly as that, boom. And then he walks out and breaks the Olympic record in the 100 fly. Just like that, just off the high of that 200 medley to then go and break the Olympic record. I won a bronze medal and I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I was so excited. He's just won a gold, comes out, breaks the Olympic record. And then the other story I remember about kind of, even though I was trying to always keep Phelpsy as just a competitor and not really like a hero or something like that. I remember standing up on, like, you got 15,000 people in the stands going mad. They blow the whistle and you get up on the blocks. The 15,000 people then turn completely dead silent and you're on the block against Phelps. And then he does that massive boom, 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 that big arm slap. Yeah. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm racing Michael Phelps, and you just get the whole body tremors. So there were kind of 2 times that I realized that I was racing someone pretty special, because I remember him doing that back slap so many times from the stands and on TV. And then just his mental kind of capacity to not get over, just the emotions of swimming really well, who's able to harness all of that and then just execute time after time.
Yeah. Oh my God. He was a different breed, wasn't he?
Yeah. Pretty amazing. Just a mindset, sometimes I think it can come down to a bit of goal setting. He set that such a crazy goal quite far back. And then he was just methodically going about his business to achieve that goal. And for me, achieving my goal was swimming a particular time, and the bronze medal was a reward. So I also achieved my goal, but he just based on his ability, had different goals to me, you know. And I always say to people, it wouldn't be fair if my goal was to win a gold medal at the Olympics, and then I walked away with a silver and 2 bronze. Imagine if I was disappointed in myself. It'd be really unfair on myself, because I can't really control who I'm racing against, and I just happen to be racing against, you know, the best of all time in Michael Phelps. But what I could control was my individual performance and my time, and that time just happened to get me 3rd. So yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, what a better way to like come runner up to, like, you know, the Cabbage and Phelps rivalry. Like, that's always going to be in the history books, you know, till the end of time. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's pretty epic.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit more about your role at Engine. So you mentioned straight after your retirement, you moved straight from your part-time into full-time role for Engine. So how long have you been there, and what is your role?
Yeah. So I was actually his first sponsored athlete. So the founder of Engine is Toby Haynen, who went to the 92 and 96 Olympics. Toby set up his first swim school in 1994. And then just off the back of that, obviously through doing lots of swimming lessons, it kind of grew organically into doing some swimming caps, and then grew into doing some goggles. So in early 2000s, he started a brand called Threshold, which kind of didn't really do much. And then he started another brand called Engine, probably in 2004. And I was the first sponsored athlete. So I've known Toby for, 15, 16 years now, and had a really good relationship with him for that whole period. So I first started in more of like a shadowing role when I was working those 6 months part-time, and then full-time, shadowing Toby a lot of the product development, a bit of the marketing, and a bit of the sales. But then kind of once I found my feet, I then was offered equity in the company. So Toby and myself are the 2 owners of Engine now. So I'm like a director at Engine. And I guess what I mainly do on a day-to-day basis is a lot of the marketing type stuff. I look after a lot of our key partnerships, and then I do some of the product development, but also sales. I think when you're a business owner, you kind of have to wear many hats. So some days I'm doing more on the finance piece and managing cash flow and stuff like that. And then also then I get to do the events and partnerships. So many hats, but it's definitely a fulfilling job, that's for sure.
Yeah. Engine is a very unique brand. So what, in your opinion, what is the best thing about the brand?
I think we're about the people and the culture and the community. And that's how it all started. So Toby and myself have been around swimming and surf lifesaving and triathlon and open water swims forever. And they're the people that we like to hang out with. And that's what we like to do. So we're kind of very real. We're an Australian brand owned by myself and Toby. So we're not like a corporate hierarchy. I think we've grown really organically as well. We haven't taken kind of any equity raising from any other party. So it's all grown really naturally. I guess another thing that we're really proud of is the amount of partnerships and sponsorships that we have. So assisting, we almost sponsor about 100 athletes around Australia. So just nurturing them through their progression as an athlete and supporting them, I think is something that we're really proud of. But we're definitely got many strings to our bow, and we've had, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen some really good growth. We've also really happy, and we've got a lot of loyal customers too. So we're really proud of that and the relationship that we have with them and the clubs and the partners. So definitely like a multifaceted business, which keeps us on our toes. Now we've moved into manufacturing lots of swimwear for schools and stuff like that too. So that's kind of our bread and butter is swimwear on like a retail scale, and then custom stuff, but then moving into that high performance swim and surf lifesaving.
Yeah, and the brand is so massive. So my next question might be a bit hard to answer. So what sort of products can we expect from Engine in future? Is there something in the works that you're keen to just roll out already, or is there something else in the process?
Thinking short term, we've got a new performance racing goggle, which will drop the end of, what month are we in now? end of September, start of October, which will complement our pool racing suit, which will be called the bullet goggle. So it's got a similar eye feel to the weapon, but it's just a little bit more kind of more performance-y. Looks really sharp. So that'll come in 5 new colorways. We've got a bigger drop of female swimwear for the summer, which will be in November. Last year we launched our Engine Bikini range and our Engine Active range, which were both really successful last year. So top-ups of those. But I think in the short term, probably that the bullet goggle is something I'm really excited with. It's taken us a while, probably 18 months, 2 years to develop a product that we're really, really happy with. It's really durable, really comfortable, but then it's got all the performance elements to it as well. So I think that'll be an absolute ripper.
Yeah, I'll get on Aaron for those. I'm pretty keen on racing goggles, and they're super popular here.
I'll hook you up.
Yeah, nice. Do you have a personal favorite product of yours from the Engine brand?
For me personally, I'm a bigger guy. So when I go swimming in the ocean, we've got a jammer, which is a wetsuit jammer. So I like those. And we've also got an open water swimming goggle called the Navigator, which is literally like pillows on your eyes. And they've got really nice field of vision. And I just love swimming in the bay when it's really clear and you take a breath to the side and you can see all the way down to the sand and see all the way to the sky. So when I grew up just wearing the really small Swedish goggles, which only had a relatively limited field of vision. Whereas this pair, it's just like swimming with, like looking through like what are those rounded flat screen, obviously not flat screen, but one of those rounded TVs. It's just beautiful. It's like a panoramic view of the ocean. So that's probably my two favorites, is the Navigator goggle and a pair of wetsuit jammers.
Yeah. So we'll talk a bit more about Olympics next year. Do you have a particular swimmer in mind, or a bunch of swimmers that you just can't wait to watch race? And do you think someone's flying under the radar a little bit that will have a big breakout year?
Yeah, I love like two swimmers that I love to watch. I always love to watch Kyle Chalmers and Kate Campbell. Kyle Chalmers is just a fierce racer. He's just so tough and aggressive, and I love his approach to racing. And then I find Kate Campbell just so graceful and powerful at the same time, but just the way she's able to control a race from the outset is just something that I love to watch. So they're probably the two people that I've earmarked for that. As far as a breakout year, I'm not too sure, but I reckon this delay of a year is going to see a few new names pop up. I remember that when I was young, when I was 15, 16, I dropped 4 seconds in 100 backstroke in one event. And I can just imagine that's kind of happening around Australia at the moment. So I was 15, I was a 1 minute backstroker. And then at one of the Victorian State Championships, I dropped 4 seconds and beat Matt Welsh and Josh Watson at the state champs. And then 6 months later, I went on to the Olympic trials and missed the Olympic team by 0.17. So I went from a minute to 55 in a matter of 6 months. And I'd just love to see someone do something similar to that and really upset the apple cart.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I just don't know who it is. Maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. I mean, the amount of talent that's within Swimming Australia, and they're just getting better and better and better as years go on. I completely agree. And it could be someone that, we may not even expect. They might not even be on our radar. They might be that much of an underdog that they might, pull out this incredible time and, come out to make the team. It always happens. So, it's really, your guess is as good as mine.
Exactly. It's almost like coming off this period of rest. I think the forced closure, I think some people will make some really good gains if they've been able to get back and be disciplined about their training. And then those people that are still struggling for motivation, you may see them drop off a little bit. So it's definitely a year where some people are vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. Going on to a little bit of surf lifesaving now. So they've recently introduced a new format for Iron X. I just wanted to know, what are your thoughts about it?
I didn't see anything of it. I understand what they're doing, and I think it kind of makes sense. People love that adventure racing, whether it's ultra marathons or if it's a tough mudder or a Spartan race. And then I do CrossFit. So I understand people, that was really a nice progression for me from swimming to CrossFit. So people love gyms and stuff like that now. So I see how they're trying to integrate that into the sport of surf lifesaving. But I think as a standalone event, I think it's got merit. But I think the sport of surf lifesaving has got such a rich history, and a pureness in what they do, that the sport of surf lifesaving shouldn't be touched. But I'm happy for it to sit alongside it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So you mentioned that you still do open water swimming. Are there any other sports that you currently do now, and do you have any goals for them?
Mate, you must have missed me on Ninja Warrior this year.
Oh no, I actually did. I was going to ask you that next.
Yeah, so I did that this year, and I trained for that. And it was I'm the type of person who if I'm going to go and do something, I go all in. So I was training at a ninja specific gym probably 3 or 4 times a week, and I changed my strength and conditioning program to improve on like areas of weakness for the sport of Ninja Warrior. And it's amazing, as soon as you open your eyes to these different sports or communities, there's a real passion for what they do. So I met some people that are full-time, ninja style athletes who, in their spare time, they're doing what they call bouldering, which is like rock climbing, but without a harness. So it's all about the grip strength and mobility and range and stuff like that. So that was really exciting to do at the start of this year. As far as at the moment, as a group, as Engine, we're about to take over a swimming centre here in Melbourne at Mentone Grammar. And underneath Mentone Grammar is a swimming club called Bayside Swimming Club. We're obviously still in lockdown at the moment, but once we start managing that centre and set up a couple of adult squads, I might start swimming a couple of times a week. So I might join the Bayside Swimming Club and do a little bit of racing back in the pool. So maybe a 50 free, 50 fly, 50 backstroke at like a state championships. And if I'm at the Olympic trials, I may as well throw my hat in the ring and race. That's one thing that I think is really important as well for life after sport, is to have things to work towards. And I'm that kind of person. So, since finishing swimming, I've run a couple of half marathons, a full marathon. I competed at the World CrossFit Games in America and went to the regionals, which is the equivalent of nationals for CrossFit. So I think it's so important to just keep moving, like whatever it is, just set a goal, work towards it. And then if it's a different sport, go all in, commit to it, and just keep going. Because it's when you stop and you don't have something to work towards, that's when I think the demons can creep in and you have a little bit of self-doubt and you maybe not feel as good about yourself. But if you're always, picking something to do and building a little community around yourself, you're going to be a lot more positive with your outlook.
Yeah. Going back to the Ninja Warrior.
I was robbed.
Obstacle course. So you fell off the doorknob drop.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what's your training like now? You're going to be hanging off all the doorknobs at home?
Mate, I was robbed on the doorknob drop. So what happened was I made it all the way across and then it dropped. Yeah. So I've got my left hand on one and my right hand on one. And then you had to turn around and go to that one. So I moved my right hand, right? And then that one was there and I was feeling very, very comfortable. I was like, I've got this. And then what I wanted to do was move this left hand across to where that right hand was to lessen the angle. So when I was to go around, it would be a little bit easier. When I went from this one to that one, it was like at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I reckon the guy who's been pulling the doorknob drop up and down was really tired. And he thought that I was going all the way around. So he let go of it. So the door shot up and I had no chance. And because I thought I was going to beat the doorknob drop, I was really conservative on my run up to the doorknob drop. So my time to get to the drop was too slow. So I didn't make it through. I was shattered. I was absolutely shattered. I was so dirty.
So next year, are you giving it another go? Is this going to be a regular occurrence for you?
I don't think so. It was fun, but I think I'd rather do like a couple of sessions in the pool rather than doing the ninja stuff. You can't do it all, and that's something that I've learned. I've got a swim school that I own in Frankston. We're about to set up this other swim school, and then we've got Engine, and then I still like to keep fit and stuff myself. So I'm getting a new puppy today, as I mentioned to you earlier. So my life's pretty full. I've got a fiance, got to try and organise a wedding, and I've got to try and make time for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. The last question, what advice would you give your younger self today?
How much younger? How old am I?
You're 10.
10. All right. So as a 10-year-old, like what I was doing as a 10-year-old, I think was perfect. And that was, I had a really good balance between everything that I was doing, as far as my friends went, as far as school went, as far as the sports and stuff that I went. I would encourage myself to maintain that balance for as long as possible. Understanding that, hey, little 10-year-old Andrew, that once you start getting good at something, prioritize it, but don't make it everything. Because there's more to you than just that one thing. So when that one thing's taken away from you, make sure that you're still a good person. So that one thing that you're doing and that maybe you're identifying with yourself isn't really your identity. Andrew is the person that people like. Andrew is the person that people relate to. So make sure that that person, Andrew, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Pretty deep.
Yeah, that's good advice.
But you know what I mean? Like you can get so caught up in, when I was at school, I didn't want to be called Andrew the swimmer, because there's more to me than that. And I think that's really important for people to make sure that they try to carry that along the way. It's like, no. It's like, yeah, I understand that swimming is something that I do and I'm really good at it and I do it a lot, but I'm also, I also go and do English. I go and do maths. I catch the bus home. I catch the train home. I love my footy. I have lots of other little passions, but swimming's just something that I do. It's not who I am. And I think if you can make that distinction for yourself, that can really help keep you a bit of balance with your swimming while you're doing swimming, and then also help in the transition out of it. Because once that's been taken away from you, you have to then like fall back on those other passions to help that transition be a little bit smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's, definitely something that a lot of swimmers need to hear as well.
So skip the last 40 minutes, fast forward to that last 5 and replay. Because I think it's a really good message. And I think you as a 10-year-old, that's the time you can learn it. Hey, little Andrew, there's more to you than just this swimming piece. Make sure you like to do other things and you're a good bloke at the same time. It's one thing that Lee Nugent said to me when I was 13 or 14. He said, "Oh, Andrew, you're a really good swimmer, but you're also a good bloke. Make sure you keep it that way." And that's stayed with me for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking time out for your busy schedule to help us. And we'll make this a little snippet and we'll send it off to you if you guys want to use it for marketing or whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, awesome.
We're happy to do that.
Sweet as, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jacob. That was good. Well done.
Yeah,
mate, you'll take on the Brett Hawke podcast soon. Off the blocks. Keep it up.
I just need a few more connections.
No, if you need a hand, I can help you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
If you send anyone just a message and just put me in the message at the same time, then it keeps people accountable.
Yeah.
Because everyone can spare 30 or 40 minutes nowadays to have a chat, because everyone should be hearing these things, and these podcasts and these long format videos are what people are engaging in at the moment rather than reading books. So I think it's really easy to get a nice message out over this medium. So yeah, just chuck me in a message or an email, whatever it is. And if someone doesn't reply to you, I can follow up for you, but I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
No worries. Too easy. Let me know. Cheers,
mate.
Will
do. Thanks, Andrew. Have a good one.
Catch up soon. See ya.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We've got our next person coming up. I don't want to give any secrets away or any clues, but you'll be pretty excited to know who it is and get behind the mind of what they're thinking and what they've been through and their journey. So please stick around and it'll be worth it. Trust me. Thanks.